Hey guys, welcome to an interesting video on Wild Rift. So we're back with another Zeri supplementary guide. Now Zeri has a ton of possible builds. We've gone over the full crit build, the black cleaver build, the on hit build, even the AP build, and now we're on our 5th build. And this is the top Zeri player's build. As you can see, we got it from the top rank loadouts. It literally just renames it to that if you steal one of the top rank loadout builds. One small side note is that he actually takes Boots of Fury, but Rage passive is already on Triforce, so you don't want to take Boots of Fury, you want to take something else. We'll get to that in a bit. But this is a very interesting build that when I first saw this build, I was thinking that there's no way that this build actually works. Like, you go Triforce and then you go like Essence Reaver and Chargeblade. It's like 3 items I personally would not build on Zeri. Like, through my complete guide and through a lot of my other guides, I've already given a lot of my thoughts on what I think Zeri's best builds are, but fortunately or unfortunately, I think that I am wrong. Now, so far out of all the Zeri builds I've tested, I genuinely think that this one is the best build, and I'm gonna explain why. So basically, the main weakness of Zeri is her terrible early game. So what Triforce does for you is the moment you hit Triforce, you get a 1 item power spike that you cannot get with Black Cleaver, you cannot get with IE, you cannot get with Stormrazor. The only build that gives you a 1 item power spike is starting Triforce first. Now, this means that your early game is going to be stronger. Your early game is going to be stronger. However, because you're getting crit later on in the game, you're going to scale slower, and also you're not going to scale as hard because you're going for Essence Reaver, and Essence Reaver is kind of a crit item that doesn't really scale very well. Now, it does scale with crit, which sounds like a good idea, but in reality, when you hit like 4 crit items, the Essence Reaver damage really is not a lot compared to getting another different crit item, like what you normally would in another Zeri match. So that's kind of the weaknesses of the build, weaknesses and strengths of the build, and I'm gonna kind of explain how this build works. So this build basically relies on spamming your Q and auto attacking in between. So with the Triforce, we get extra max health for extra tankiness, a touch of AD, 30% attack speed right from the get-go, which a little bit of AD plus the 30% attack speed contributes a lot to the early game power, in addition to 25 ability haste, which I believe is the most ability haste on an item in the game. I think maybe some have 30, I'm not too sure, but yeah, it's about there. So you also get extra 5% movement speed, and also the Rage passive, which gives you 20 extra movement speed on hit, which is, of course, Zeri's all about movement speed. Then you also get the Spell Blade, which of course whenever you cast a spell, your next auto attack is going to be empowered. Now, the reason I said Triforce doesn't work on Zeri is because in PC, Zeri's auto attack was her Q, so literally you didn't have to cast any abilities. By auto attacking, you would proc Triforce automatically, whereas this is not the case in Wild Rift. However, what is the case in Wild Rift is that her Q cooldown is so low, especially because you have 25 ability haste here, 20 ability haste here, and another 20 ability haste here. On your first 3 items, you already have 65 ability haste. Your Q basically has no cooldown, so you basically auto attack Q, auto attack Q, auto attack Q, and you proc Spell Blade on every auto attack, but while slowing them down, and if you have your ult on, while speeding yourself up as well. So pretty much couldn't get any better than that. Then this combos with the next 2 items. First up, we have Essence Reaver. So Essence Reaver gives you that injection of AD that you really need, gives you 45 AD, gives you the crit, and again the ability haste, which we just talked about. And then you also get 2 very crucial passives. The first one is the Essence Flare passive, which gives your abilities bonus damage. Now the reason why this is so good is because you're spamming your abilities, you're spamming your Q especially a lot, and this makes your Q deal extra damage. So this is really good for the early to mid stages of the game, but as I mentioned, in the late game this actually gives you quite a big drop off in damage. And you also get the Mana Siphon, which Zeri actually uses a lot of mana because she's spamming her Q so much, so getting that extra mana restore on hit is also kind of a very nice thing. Then we get the Slurry Chargeblade, which again just combos so nicely with the other 2 items. So you're spamming your spells using all the ability haste you get from your first 3 items, including Chargeblade. Your spells are doing extra damage because of Essence Reaver, and now aside from Spellblade, you're also going to get the on-hit magic damage from Solari Chargeblade. So this gives you a lot of extra damage on your basic attacks. On your basic attacks, you're going to get the Spellblade prompt, you're going to get the Chargeblade prompt, which can also crit, and you're also going to get the Essence Reaver prompt on casting your Q or even your W or Alt, although those are a lot less often. Then you also get attack speed. Here you get crit rate. Now at this point with that with all this attack speed, you're already gonna hit over that 1.5, so some of it will be converted to AD, but after this we're not building any more attack speed. And then the build calls for Bloodthirster, which of course gives you the physical vamp, AD, and crit rate, as well as the shield. And finally, we top it up with an IE, which gives you, of course, 100% crit after 4 crit items, and 55 AD, as well as extra crit damage. Now, one thing I found a bit questionable about this build is going for IE last item. Generally, the reason why ADCs love IE is because when you build it second or third, you get a very, very huge power spike because of the extra crit damage. However, with this build, it kind of does make sense to build it last, and I've tested building it second last and building it last, and building it last is actually better. Because when you go for your first 3 items, these are the core items for this build. These are crucial, so you cannot change the first 3 items. And after you get these 3 items, a lot of fights that I've gone for IE first, I realized that what I really need is the lifesteal. So I think that this guy knows what he's doing. I mean, he is the top 1 Zeri after all, when he goes for the Bloodthirster instead of the IE. So I think that this does make sense, going for Bloodthirster first for the sustain, and then finally, if you reach like your last item, you can go for the IE to get that super huge spike in damage. This build is, as I mentioned, totally not my style, but it is pretty amazing. Now I am going to be testing out variations of this build that's more suited to my style, because what I don't like about this build is the missing Runan's Hurricane. Like, where is Runan's Hurricane? Like, the biggest weakness of this build is how you can get blocked by frontline. Like, if there's a Scion, Nautilus, whoever, whatever tank just standing in the front, you cannot shoot through them except for 3 auto attacks when you E, and you cannot hit the backline in any way whatsoever, which kind of sucks for this build. But again, you kind of do a lot of damage to tanks as well, so yeah. I'm going to quickly gloss over the runes now. We go for Lethal Tempo for the attack speed. Now, I did mention we are going to max out the attack speed, but Lethal Tempo, again, for the early game, it's really good. And also, it's going to be converted to AD anyways. Going for like Conqueror or Kraken Slayer just doesn't make sense, because your early to mid game is going to be a lot weaker before you hit 3 items. Then we go for Hunter Vampirism, of course, for the Vamp. Bone Plating, of course, for the Anti-Burst. And finally, we go for Nimbus Cloak. Now, with so much ability haste on our first 3 items, we don't actually need like Hunter Genius or anything else anymore. Some people like going for Sweet Tooth. I don't like it personally, but if you're the kind that likes taking Sweet Tooth, by all means, go for it. Spells, we go for Exhaust and Flash. And I also forgot to talk about the boots. So for the boots, you can go for defensive options, or if you want, you can also go for the Gluttonous Greaves, because of course you only get lifesteal over here, and that's kind of really long into the match. And for the enchant, Stasis in some matches, but QSS for most matches, because removing CC is what Zeri just really wants. So with all that out the way, let's jump into the gameplay and see exactly how this top build works. Okay, so now we get into the gameplay itself. So as I mentioned, I really was quite surprised at how well that this build actually works, just simply due to the fact that I never really considered Triforce to be a good item until I looked at the top 10 builds, and I saw that everyone basically, except for like one guy, was building Triforce, which is where I suspected that probably, you know, it probably had some merit to it. So I decided to try out the top guy's build for myself, and I found it to be really good. But personally, I just cannot get over the fact that there's no Runan's Hurricane, so I'm definitely gonna be like changing this build up to suit my personal playstyle. I'm gonna be adding a Runan's Hurricane in there, definitely gonna be testing it out and seeing how it goes. When I say this build, I mean like the Triforce start. I think probably starting Triforce is gonna be the best for Zeri, because it's going to mean that she's gonna get some kind of early game power, and her early game is not gonna be so weak, because Zeri on one item, like Zeri with an IE, Zeri with a Storm Razor, Zeri with a Black Cleaver, kind of just really it just feels like you really do nothing much, and you have to hit like 2 to 3 items to feel useful. Whereas when you have Triforce, you feel like you're doing some kind of meaningful damage, and then you hit your second and third item, and the damage curve is a lot more smooth compared to like the crit builds, where it feels like you're doing nothing, and when you hit like 3 items, you suddenly have a huge like steep spike in terms of your power, which hey, you know, that's nice and all, but you know, I'd rather have a smoother curve and like a slightly like lower peak in terms of how my power goes. So anyways, here we're up against a Caitlyn as well as a Nami lane, and this lane, honestly, it looks bad for Zeri, but I'm gonna explain to you why this lane is actually fine. Basically, what Caitlyn wants to do is play super aggressively, launch Qs at you, launch your auto attack and headshots at you. Nami wants to step up and poke. So basically, essentially, this is just a poke lane. It's really difficult for them to all in you unless you get poked to the point where you're like at 1/3 HP, and you can simply just get one shot by like a Nami wave into bubble into everything Caitlyn has kind of combo. But especially because we have bone plating, it helps to block a lot of that poke damage because we shouldn't be getting poked non-stop in the first place. And we also have a Lulu who can shield us like when it's very obvious Caitlyn's coming out for a poke. Like for example, she has her headshot and she's obviously just gonna poke. Lulu can easily pop the shield on us, like something like here, for example, and in that way you can minimize the poke that you take. And you can see that after like 2 minutes in the lane, you can see that we have barely taken any damage. Lulu as well, like you see here, she shields the Caitlyn headshot, and with the regular bone plating you know, cooldown coming up, and together with Lulu's shields, we still have our fruit up, so it really nothing too much to be concerned about. Really, there's not too much of an issue in this lane. The main threat is they have priority, so if they can push us under tower, we can get dived by the enemy jungle, and that's probably the most likely way that we die. But again, in solo queue, diving with your jungle is not the most common thing in the world. And here we pop the fruit, we're back up to really a healthy state, and yeah, so we're just chilling in the lane, just farming it up. And something I didn't mention about the Triforce build in the build section of the video is, if you don't die in the laning phase, and if you just manage to farm, like you let them push into you, you farm, you get every single like CS that you can, you don't have to literally last hit every single CS, you can miss like a couple, you will be able to get your Triforce before the first dragon, which is another reason why this Triforce build is so good. Because when you get that Triforce spike and go to the first dragon, there's a lot higher likelihood of you getting a number of kills at the first dragon fight, which is going to start your snowball, which allows you to get your second and third item faster, etc. And you know, of course, you know, you guys know what snowballing is and how it works, so that's basically one of the reasons why this is good compared to if you went into the dragon fight like with a half completed IE or with a full completed IE, or like a Black Cleaver or something like that. It really, and again, it's just not very strong as a one item power spike, so you're less likely to get kills, and as a result you're less likely to snowball. So I think that if you were to ask me, I think this is probably the core main reason why the Triforce rush is good. It's probably because it gives you a lot more power at the first like dragon team fight, and if that team fight goes well, basically, you know, you can start snowballing from there and start taking over the game. So speaking of which, we're about to come up on it. The dragon is about 30 seconds out from spawning. Here we have like all the components already, but we just need like that 300 gold to actually hit the Triforce power spike. Here Evelyn actually goes in onto the Nami, but there's nothing much we can really do because we're way too far away. So instead we're just going to quickly farm up this wave. About 20 seconds to the dragon spawning. We're quickly just going to shove out this wave, and then we're just quickly going to recall and get ourselves the Triforce, and then we can hit straight over to dragon. Alright, there we go, the Triforce is completed, and Evelyn is posturing toward the dragon. Lulu does run into the Caitlyn and the Nami, but nothing too much is really happening here. There's a dive going on in mid lane, and it's kind of just very messy all over the map. I decided to go help bot instead, but unfortunately we're no longer in like a position where we can really do anything much to help. So we're just going to quickly collect this wave, and then we're going to hit over to the dragon. Okay, so here we're just going to blast through and check what's happening on the dragon. I mean, we can obviously see it because our team is kind of doing it, and this is a thing I found with Zeri, is that you can actually hit the dragon over the wall provided it's at the starting position where it is. Here I tried to go all in on the Caitlyn with the ulti and everything, but because I did that, I didn't manage to block the Caitlyn ultimate because I was in the wall, and because of that, the Lulu ends up dying, which is kind of my bad. So that was not maybe the best move, and Caitlyn also still had flash, and she managed to escape anyways. If she didn't have flash there, I would have probably been able to kill her, but yeah, it's kind of an unfortunate situation. But here anyways, we're just gonna quickly clear up the minions, And then we're just gonna quickly back. As you guys can see, look at our mana, we have absolutely none, which is why I say that, you know, Zeri does indeed have mana problems, which is why the Essence Reaver is gonna help out throughout the game. Alright, so here I do have the Gluttonous Greaves this match, because I did decide to go for that lifesteal this match. In my opinion, in this particular match, the defensive boots not too... I mean, you can't say it's not too effective, because defensive boots are always going to be effective to a certain extent, but I just wanted that lifesteal. Here I get a decent trade onto Caitlyn, you guys can see. That Zeri's like burst combo, like you guys can see here, is pretty insane when you have that Triforce, because you're proccing your Q so often. Boom, there she goes. And yeah, so we do pick up that kill on her. Here the Chain Lightning is actually hitting onto the Nami, and here I'm trying to actually blast the Nami the best I can. Get Nami to relatively low health, but she's under tower and not too much we can do about it. Accidentally tanked the tower shot there while trying to just attack the tower. So remember, with the Triforce, if you do want to take towers more quickly, you can actually just Q the ground to proc the Spellblade onto the tower, or W, like any random place to proc your Spellblade onto the tower. So that's just something you can and should be doing when you're using this Triforce build. You'll probably see me doing it later on in the match as well, but just pointing it out. So here we're of course building towards our Essence Reaver, and this is a very, very expensive build. Like, Triforce is extremely expensive, IE is extremely expensive, so is like BT, and in fact I think like Essence Reaver, in my opinion, is really expensive as well, considering what it does. Like, one of the reasons why Essence Reaver is such a bad item in general is because of how high its cost is compared to how much it actually does. Like, it's a good early game item, but it falls off in like the later stages of the game, and it doesn't really give you all that much for how much it costs. So yeah, but it used to be OP at one point in time, which is why the cost kept going up. So yeah, that kind of does make sense. If they lower the cost, it probably is going to be OP again, but yeah. Right, so here Evelynn is coming in, but there really is no angle for her to gank here. They probably have like a control ward somewhere, because the moment Evelynn started walking, they just started running away. Anyways, we're just gonna collect the minion wave since the enemies don't have any kind of pressure here. I hit DW onto both of them, quickly destroy the tower, and original plan was to go all in on them. However, we get hit by the Nami wave. Here I'm just trying to slow down the Caitlyn, and Evelynn is able to finish off the kill with her ultimate. Here I'm trying to again get the kill onto Nami, but Malphite comes in off the flank, 1v3, ults the Lulu, flashes for the Lulu, and does manage to get the kill on Lulu, but we do trade for it, which overall is a very positive trade. Malphite used his ult and his flash to secure a kill onto Lulu, and he died anyway, so I don't think that was a really good move by him at all. He didn't even pop his ignite, which he actually had, so if he ignited there, I don't even think he needed to flash. But anyways, quite positive outcome for us. That's pretty slow game, we're 2-0 and 1. But compared to like going for a normal Zeri build, you can afford to play a little bit more aggressively with this Zeri build, because you are definitely a tad stronger. So that's kind of also why I love this Triforce start, because it's kind of boring to just farm it up and, like, you know, do nothing much. Like the whole, like not the whole game, but like for like 10-15 minutes of the game, like 15 minutes of just farming to get items. Like, it's really, really boring to do that. And yeah, so here we get our second item, the Essence Reaver. So of course, with this particular build, you spike on every item. So with Triforce, you have a spike. With Essence Reaver, you have another spike. Chargeblade, another huge spike. And yeah, so on and so forth. Here a fight kind of breaks out in the middle lane, and here I'm trying to get in on the fight. Boom, I ulti. And this is a thing that happens really often in Zeri. Like, look at this, everyone is so low. I'm thinking like, oh, you know, this could be like a triple kill, a quadra kill, something like that, and then I just die. Like, this always happens to me. Like, it always happens that everyone is always so low and no one dies. And I think that this problem happens really often because of the fact that Zeri can only attack what's right in front of her. So, assuming that there are like 4 half health targets, you get one of the 4 half health targets low, the second one comes and blocks him. You get that guy low, the third one comes and blocks him, and then you end up in a situation where you basically cut off like everyone to 1 HP, but you cannot finish anyone off because they're all blocking for each other, whether on purpose or not, but that always happens. So like, that's kind of one of the annoying parts of playing Zeri. Here the dragon is up, and a huge fight kind of breaks out over the dragon area. I've just respawned, so I'm heading over to the area now. And Caitlyn's setting up the trap line. Here we're trying to get some poke down on Caitlyn as she's setting up the traps to not let her do it for free. Evelyn Blast plants herself in and just ults back out because the dragon's not ready yet. Here I dash myself in, and for some reason the whole enemy team decide not to attack me and decides instead to just walk away. I'm not quite sure why this happened. I'm pretty sure that I was a pretty free kill there, but either way, it kind of works out for me because I don't die, and as a matter of fact, I pick up a couple of assists here instead. And we also have the Herald, so with the Herald we can push down this tier 2 tower. So here you can see when I'm attacking the tower, I'm using my spells onto the minion wave at the same time to proc the spell blade onto the tower. So this achieves, you know, more tower damage as well as clearing the wave at the same time. Really good deal. And here we tried to get a second crash of the Herald, but Nami Bubble manages to stop it. Here I'm just shooting over the wall, and Vi comes on in, and here I'm just shooting Vi across the wall as well. Evelyn manages to hit the charm and one-shots the Nami here. So here, since no one else is around to take the blue buff, I'm just going to pick it up. Blue buff really good on Zeri anyways, as we talked quite extensively about. Zeri has a lot of mana issues, so we do love to get a blue buff. Like, honestly, with Zeri, having double buffs is the dream. You have blue buff for that, like, alt CD and for like the general mana restoration, and you have the red buff for the slow and the damage. Like, getting double buffs on Zeri is ideal, but most of the time you do want to give your mage the blue buff, because most mage players, you know, they get pissed off when you don't give them the buff. Of course, if you're carrying, probably you want to take it, but otherwise you probably just want to give it to your mage player. In this case, we have a Yasuo in the mid lane, so he doesn't really need the blue buff anyways. Neither does like Wukong, so it's kind of basically me or Lulu who should be getting the blue buff anyways. So here we're just going to quickly clear out the mid lane. We have no vision on anybody on the enemy team, so this is actually pretty dangerous because they could just all collapse on us, but we do manage to get away scot-free with the wave. Right, so now the whole enemy team starts showing up on mid lane, and Wukong is trying to set a trap. Now me and Lulu are gonna join him. Fortunately, Lulu kind of whiffs the polymorph, and here I ult in onto the Diana. I exhaust her before her ult connects, and we almost managed to kill her. Unfortunately, I kind of whiffed the aiming there a little bit, and we don't manage to secure the kill on Diana. Here, a nice sidestep by Caitlyn using her E to dodge my W. And here, I'm not too sure what I'm doing. I'm not gonna kill the Malphite anyways. He's like really tanky. I'm just kind of a little bit frustrated that, you know, especially this match in particular, like, a lot of times people are always 1 HP and they are always escaping. Like, it's a little bit frustrating when that happens. So I'm just like chasing the Malphite to get out my frustration, I guess. So here, we're just kind of sieging this tower, but the whole enemy team is kind of here already, and we don't really want to fight here. This is kind of a really dangerous situation for us. Yasuo, I think, auto-targets his tornado to the Malphite. I'm pretty sure he was aiming for the Diana, and again, another Evelyn ult secures the kill. Not technically a KS, but, you know, Evelyn has that execute, which pretty much guarantees that she gets the kill unless she messes up. So here we don't get hit by the Malphite. We ult instead, and we start blasting away at people. We finally get the kill on Malphite, and we're gonna move on to the Vi. Not me, Wukong manages to secure the kill, and here Caitlyn tries to ult. I block it, and I'm able to dash in and finish her off. Of course, she kind of underestimated how much burst damage Zeri does. This is another one of the benefits of this new Zeri build, which is that Zeri has insane burst damage with like her Q auto, etc. Now, I'm not sure if you guys can hear that in the background, but there's someone's like car alarm going off, so apologize for that. Obviously that's out of my control, but someone's car alarm is kind of going off. Regardless, we're gonna steal the enemy's blue buff, and here we spot that the two alive enemies are actually on top trying to stop Yasuo for some reason, so we managed to steal their bottom inhibitor in addition to already getting their mid inhibitor. So this is kind of a pretty dream situation for us. We get that inhibitor pretty much for free there, and there's nothing that the enemy could have stopped it, but they didn't. So that's the key thing here. We exploited their poor pathing or poor decision making, and we got it. Now here, I wanted to take the red buff, but Wukong ends up taking the red buff instead, which definitely, pissed me off to a certain extent, especially because I'm now on a 3-item power spike and also building towards IE. Now, I said in the build that of course BT is better, but in this match I was testing out going IE first. So anyways, the next dragon is up, and of course the Diana is dead, who is not actually their jungler, it's the Vi who is their jungler. But anyways, we're just gonna secure the dragon before she can even get near, and no big deal here. You can see the whole enemy has kind of like conglomerated on like the bomb lane, and like Evelyn here is trying to make a play. I don't really think this is a good idea because we don't really have much to gain from this. Here I managed to hit a W, and yeah, this is just not a good idea in general. But here I managed to basically spot a Vi dashing in. I just dash over the wall, and like I do a lot more burst than I expected. I didn't even need my ult there, and we do get the pick onto the Vi. Here I flash forward to secure the kill onto the Evelyn because Yasuo was in the GA and she couldn't secure the kill anyways. And with that, Diana respawns. I exhaust her again, and nothing much really happens. We kill the Malphite, and only Diana and Nami are left to defend. They can't do it, so we're just gonna end the game right here. And you guys can see how strong this like top Zeri build is, and I really like it. You guys can try it out for yourselves. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. I'm gonna leave you guys with the stats as usual, and goodbye.